Hi, I'm Raindolf Owusu. I'm an under 40 CEO.
The African Renaissance. The concept that the African people and nations shall overcome the current challenges confronting the continent and achieve cultural, scientific, and economic renewal is here, with young men and women taking the lead. Some call them the new school heroes. We call them under 40 CEOs.
Raindolf Owusu is a Ghanaian-born entrepreneur and software developer with a proven track record of successful projects. In March 2012, Raindolf received recognition as a Guido Sony Fellow by the Free Software and Open Source Foundation for Africa for his strong advocacy for free and open source software and his continuous use and support for open source technologies. Raindolf was dubbed the Mark Zuckerberg of Ghana by Forbes Africa magazine in 2012. He is the founder and CEO of Oasis Websoft. Welcome to Under 40 CEOs, Raindolf.
Thank you.
Raindolf.
Yeah.
Now that's a pretty unique name. I know of the Randolphs, but Raindolf, you're possibly the only Raindolf out there.
Yeah.
What's the origin?
I made a typographical error when I was growing up, and I decided to keep that name. So I moved from one school to another, I think, when I was like 5, and I looked pretty much old enough, so they were like, I should write my own name. So I was writing my name, and I couldn't spell my name, so I decided to make it Raindolf instead of Randolph. So
from then on?
Yeah, from then on, I decided to keep the name Raindolf. So it reflects on all my official documents, whether my passport or my birth certificate.
That's an amazing story.
Yep.
Now, you launched Oasis Websoft at, I would say, tender age of 21.
Yes.
What technology solutions were you trying to provide at the time?
When I started the company, the aim was to put Ghana on the map. So I was trying to match up with the world. So I was building software solutions that the West had already built. So I was trying to put Ghana on the map in terms of technology to prove, apart from agriculture, we have the technical expertise to put Africa on the map.
Now, you created the Anansi web browser at Oasis Websoft, and that's possibly the first and only African web browser. Now, why did you feel the need to create this, and what does it do differently?
The web browsers at that time didn't have offline features. And in 2011 in Ghana, internet wasn't so stable, and the web browsers were only serving us when you're online. So I was hoping once the internet is not online, what can you do offline? And I realized you could include offline features like maybe a game or something to change the theme, or you can even include a feature that would allow people to take snapshots. So the web browser had all these extra features. So when you're browsing and the internet goes down, you can easily use the offline features and you still enjoy the experience. So the point was pretty much serving the offline world because every web browser works for the online world. But I was hoping because our internet wasn't too stable, we can just use the web browser to serve the offline community as well. Yeah.
So how has the acceptance for the browser been?
I guess the feedback has been both positive and negative. In 2011, it was quite exciting. It was new. People had not seen anybody do something of that magnitude. So people accepted it, but then it wasn't pretty much accepted here because not so many people had computers. So people abroad were actually downloading and enjoying their offline features. So over time, I realized we had to go mobile with some of our software applications we were building. And even we had developer communities fight over whether it was the first web browser or not. So it brought a lot of controversy as well. But you know, as a growing business person, you take all the feedback and it shapes the focus of your company.
Now, you must have faced certain challenges that only young people face in this part of Africa. What are those challenges?
Some of the challenges I faced running a business as a young entrepreneur is people who believe they have to work with experienced people. They believe experienced people know how to do things best. So they'd rather go with experience than competence. So it took a while for people to take the kind of work I was doing seriously. Because with the foreign world or even the West, they always pick competence over experience. You know, in most places, they believe if you are competent to do the work, then they give you the opportunity. So once they started talking about my work, people realized, I was the right person to get the job done. Some of the other challenges I've faced as well is meeting the right people to connect me with the right contacts. In everywhere in the world, even if you're a leader or you're in a position of power, it's easy to be accessible to the people. But in our part of the world, if I am working on a project and I need a policy maker to contribute to something, it will be very difficult for me to go through the chain of command to get to the one in the top. So meeting the right people with the access has been a very big challenge.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
So, Raindolf,
Yep.
I've heard about some of the apps that you've created,
Yep.
including Bisa, Dr. Diabetes, and some others. Please do tell me more about these applications.
At Oasis Websoft, we believe technology cannot stand on its own. It only makes sense if you integrate it with other sectors like entertainment, lifestyle, or maybe healthcare or education. So we build relevant software solutions to solve problems around us. So one of our applications is Ebola Ghana Alerts. We launched that application in 2014 when the Ebola scare was around, and we deployed it in Ghana and some parts of Nigeria. And the aim of that project was pretty much to inform the people about Ebola, what kind of precautionary measures they can do to safeguard themselves from Ebola. And we developed Dr. Diabetes because we realized diabetes is on the rise, and there are not so many initiatives and solutions out there that are informing the people about diabetes. So we give them a short questionnaire. It's more of like a self-check. So once you go through the questionnaire, we give you a predictive model for you to know if you are prone to getting diabetes or not. And that is a very interesting model because we learned it from doctors. Because when you go to a doctor, they ask you a particular set of questions. And based on that question, they get to know what kind of illness you have. So we took that manual model, we computerized it, and that was what gave birth to Dr. Diabetes. And currently, we are working on Bisa. Bisa means ask in our Ghanaian language. As a company, we believe information is very powerful. The more you keep people informed, the more they can make the right choices. People have a lot of mobile devices. How can we get them the right information? And we realized that people like the working class or the middle class, we are very busy. We don't have time to go to the hospital. Even if we see a symptom, we'd rather go to a pharmacy and get an unprescribed drug. And it's not healthy for the people. So we decided to talk to a set of doctors for them to come on board, and people can easily ask them any question that is affecting their health, or if they need information about healthcare, we give it to them. And that is Bisa. So Bisa has 8 doctors at this time. We have about 4 specialists. We have a dermatologist who looks at skin diseases. So we even have a feature in the application that allows you to take a picture of an area you're concerned about. If you have maybe an STD, you can take a snapshot of it. And that is an interesting feature because people are scared of stigmatization. Even going to a doctor, they are pretty much scared the doctor might judge them or whatnot. So we are giving them a platform to just sit at home, take a snapshot of the area you're concerned about, even ask a question and send it to our doctors anonymously. You don't have to give us your right name. You just have to give us your right information, like your age, your gender, and based on that, our doctors will get back to you. So that's Bisa, and we are currently pushing Bisa to get so many people to utilize Bisa in Ghana and beyond.
So, what's the monetization model for these apps?
Bisa currently, it's for free because we want to reach so many people. Want to reach about 200 million African mobile users. And once we reach them, we'll be able to roll out premium services where if you want to actually have a video call with a doctor, you pay a particular subscription fee and you'll be able to talk to the doctor live. So those are like some of the models you're using. But currently, we want to reach as many people as possible. And to do that, you have to make it free. I'm a typical African and I like free things. So once we've given it to the maximum of people, then we can roll out premium services. The reason why we roll out these free applications is because we want to reach so many people. We believe technology is a game changer and it can impact lives. But as a company, we build services for companies that is paid for. So we have contract services with banks, with small financial services, and for those projects they are paid for. So for the public, we believe we want to give them the information for them to enrich their lives. But then if you're a corporate client, you come to us, we'll make you foot the cost to benefit the wider people. So that's more of a social enterprise.
Okay, now in your article, The Rise and Perils of African Startups, you said startups need to develop an efficient and affordable business, marketing model.
Yeah.
What model have you successfully deployed at Oasis Websoft?
Yeah, we've used the social media model where we are deploying ads on Facebook. So we pay about $100 a week and we sponsor advertisements to reach a number of people. But that model won't work for everybody. If your model is pretty much using traditional radio, you have to get on radio to get the word out there. But for us, social media has worked pretty much for us because we've identified our audience. That's like the young people from the ages of 15 to about 45. And majority of these people are usually on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and on Twitter. So the social media model has worked for us so much.
Okay, you also mentioned in the same article that African entrepreneurs are more likely to work independently and compete with each other rather than collaborating. Now, I would like to use a programmer's language here. Is this a cultural bug that needs to be debugged?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. In Africa, I believe we should collaborate more because we have so many isolated pockets of entrepreneurs doing the same thing, doing the same solution. So I believe once we come together, if let's say I'm working on Bisa and you're working on something similar to Bisa, why don't we come together and collaborate and build a similar solution? And that would even make us more powerful because two heads are better than one. So I believe we should get rid of the competition unless it will benefit both of our businesses. But if not, collaboration is the way to go.
Now, you've listed music as one of your interests. How so?
It's because I used to rap when I was young.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was rapping in my secondary school days. That's how come I tend to write a lot of articles. I believe writing is a way to sell my intelligence to someone growing up. And at this point, I realized writing code is the best way to do that. So I write a lot of software code. Yeah. Okay,
now you've received a lot of awards and recognitions. What do these awards, recognitions, and accolades mean to you?
Anytime I receive an award or recognition, it serves as a reminder to myself and my team of the good work we are doing. I believe I don't work alone. I work with a very supportive team. So anytime there's a recognition, although I might be the face or the one receiving the award, it always serves as a reminder to my team of the kind of impact our work is doing.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
From receiving loads of recognition, including the MIT Global Startup Workshop Fellow, Raindolf was invited by the United States Embassy to meet with President Barack Obama. Now, the Mandela Washington Fellow conferred on you by the U.S. Embassy gives you an all-access pass to meet President Barack Obama in Washington, D.C., that is.
Yes.
Did you get to meet him?
Yes, I was actually in the same room with Obama. He gave a very lengthy speech on how Africa should move forward and how Africa would need future leaders like myself and a few others who were selected for the fellowship. So it was good seeing Obama. It gave me a lot to think about after seeing Obama.
Now, I saw on the cover of Forbes Africa where you were featured, and it read on the cover, 30 under 30.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's billionaires.
Yeah.
Now, how close are you to hitting the billions?
I'm like maybe 10 years away from hitting a billion, but then I believe it's also good recognition for the work we are doing because they do a lot of research. They get a lot of nominations from all around Africa. So we have so many Africans, youngsters who believe they do not need a government. They can do things on their own. Okay. So you can imagine about 2 million, maybe across board, they are getting all these nominations. So if you are selected as one of the 30 under 30, it means you are doing something right. So it was a good recognition for myself and my company in general.
Okay. How has travel and interacting with different cultures helped to shape you as a person and your business as well?
Yeah, traveling is very important because diversity, the world is a global village and you should know how to interact with people. And for me personally, I've lived in Uganda for about 4 months. I did some work there in in 2013. So learning more about Africa from a different East African perspective was a good experience for myself. Okay. And even going abroad, going to the West too gives you a lot to think about as a creative person, because you see how technology is used to transform from transportation to addressing system to even healthcare. So once I come back from such trips, you know, I'm on fire. I want to do something new because I've seen how things are done there. But at the same time, I don't rush to build a solution, because you can't take the approaches that work there and think it's going to work in Africa.
Okay, now you mentioned earlier, you know, the age challenge in relation to the African culture. Okay. You know, but what are those other key challenges that you've had to overcome to make the strides that you have so far?
In the beginning of my company, I used to chase funding a lot. I always talk about the fact that there's lack of funding in my sector. And I realized it was never going to change. So I had to find ways to raise money to bootstrap some of the projects we do. And that is how come we offer services in my company as a way to sustain our business. So funding, and it's not peculiar to just myself. It's a lot of people can attest that if you're looking for even a loan, they would need an collateral. Imagine you just graduated from the university and you're still living with your parents. How would you get a car that is worth $20,000 or a house that is worth $100,000 as a collateral for a bank loan? So this is a challenge that is everywhere. So I guess my advice to anybody who is watching is looking for funding, there would always be a skill set you have that can bring money to the table. So just tap into that for the beginning. And once the investors or the funders realize you've been able to deliver on your own to a certain extent, they would buy into your idea and support you.
Now, when you talk about working with people, being one of the challenges, I'm assuming you're referring to human resource.
Yes.
Now, we all know that human resource is a key element to consider when growing any enterprise. So how do you hire?
We hire usually based on the need or the terms of the project you're working on. And I personally interview them to make sure their visions align with our visions in the company. We don't go for a first class. We would rather go for a third class who has a portfolio of projects than go for a first-class computer science student to take up maybe a senior engineering role or a junior engineering role in my company. So we are not heavy on if you have a degree or a diploma or not. We believe, although those things come with professionalism, because school teaches you a lot of professionalism, but we would rather go with somebody who can deliver and who understands the focus. So our hiring model pretty much centers on what you can do, rather than what you can write on paper. We believe in what you can do.
Okay, now you told me earlier about your leadership style.
Yeah.
But I'm sure as a leader, you have possibly failed along the line.
Yeah.
Tell me about your failures as a leader.
Communication actually attributed to one of my failures as a leader, because it was very difficult trying to get certain words across. But, you know, I always like feedback. So after talking to my team, they told me that sometimes I get too swamped up with my busy schedule and everything else. I'm not able to communicate things to them. Sometimes I believe people can do things on their own, because maybe that's what I'm paying you to do. You should think on your own. If I'm hiring you, I'm not hiring you to tell you everything to do. But then, with just like everybody else, some people need a little bit of pushing and help to get a job done. So I believe communication factored into my failure as a leader, but I've picked that up. I'm not too busy to call my team at 2 a.m. to tell them what to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that means delegation is a huge part of what you do?
Yes.
Because, of course, communication and delegation.
Very, very important. And I'm more of a team player. I still write software. I don't leave everything done for my team to do. I can help them build the architecture. I still bootstrap some of the project on my own, start writing the code, and they pick up in the end. So most of the time, I'm pretty much involved in the process, so they don't feel left to do all the work.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
Now, what other key skill sets do you think a CEO needs to acquire to manage people?
You should have very good mentorship skills. You should be able to mentor maybe the next person available to take up your role if tomorrow you should die or something happens. So you let them know that beyond maybe writing software or doing business, you should grow a leadership style, you should be a team player, so you should have very good mentorship skills. Another key point is being able to find solutions to problems. You should be a very deep thinker. Okay. You shouldn't think usually on the side, you should think deeply about things.
Okay, so tell me, what values are important to your company?
Our integrity is very important because we get a lot of referrals. So there's a thing in my company called being truthful all the time. I always instill to my employees that tell the client what you can do and what you cannot do. You know, it's very important. So being truthful about project and being truthful about the business in the whole is a key part of our business.
What would you say is the biggest letdown that you've experienced in your career so far?
I think at one point somebody put up a very lengthy blog post about my company. It was pretty much about me as a person, and it was unfounded. That was the first time I had got like very bad publicity. So after reading that, it put down my spirit because I was young at that time. It was about 4 years ago. But over time, I realized I should be able to develop a tough skin to take what kind of criticism that comes. So whether it's good or bad, you know, they all help and shape the company. And in the kind of field I'm in technology, you'd realize that they always constantly want to compare the kind of work we are doing in Africa to the West. And you can't. The other time, I read somewhere Mark Zuckerberg won't survive in Africa for a year, you know, and that is true. The kind of work we are doing, we're putting a lot of dedication. You'd realize my team is about 6. In the US, they hire about 200 engineers to get some of the jobs we are getting done here. So you can imagine the number of hours we put into the work we do. So I believe comparison as also being a letdown. I believe we are constantly evolving. Software cannot be 100% at a go. If you look at what WhatsApp was 4 years ago, it's not what it is now. It means the software has evolved. So we should give everybody an opportunity. Rather than criticize people wrongly, you'd rather give the person constructive criticism, and that would be a good way to go.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
From his unique name to developing a thick skin needed to survive in these climes, we do know what makes Raindolf tick. But how does he unwind? And what are his guilty pleasures? I seek to find out. Now, I have a few quick-fire questions for you. What do you love to eat?
Fufu and palm nut soup, that's my favorite.
How would you describe your style?
You'd find an African touch in anything I wear.
What are your favorite brands to wear?
I pretty much do not do the designer thing.
What other CEOs are you currently looking up to?
I like Jason Njoku of Iroku TV, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, and Herman Chinuesi of Ghana.
Okay, what's your favorite car to drive?
Jaguar.
What's your favorite travel destination?
Hawaii.
Your favorite book of all time?
Dreams from My Father by Barack Obama.
And what book are you reading right now?
How to Influence People.
Actually, I'd like to know, what makes Raindolf happy?
Writing. Yeah. If I wasn't a technologist, I'd be a film writer.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on Under 40 CEOs, Raindolf.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, I'm Raindolf Owusu. You can also be an Under 40 CEO.